got a question?
That first person with a question, it always takes guts. I mean, that's always a special person.
Absolutely. Wants to be in the white scarf. The weather outside is frightful.
Well, you can pick him. I'm picking the pretty girl up front. Oh, you've got the mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mic rules.
What we're going to do, I'm going to tell you here, in case everybody doesn't know it.
There's a structure to this.
No, just really loud. Okay, it can be loud too. All right. As usual, I have the cards we passed out. Put your questions on there. The gentleman in the back, well, no, actually Jerry, will then read your question, and we'll answer it that way. And while we're passing it out, I would like to present you two gentlemen with a certificate of our deep appreciation. Thank you. Just a second, please.
He's presenting us with a certificate of his deep appreciation.
I had to dig deep for this.
And we appreciate that. And we appreciate you asking us to come and speak. That's very, especially when I heard the list of people that have spoken before. We really appreciate it. We're getting our picture taken.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Oh, you know, put a photo on.
Armstrong and Getty, right.
With the tall guy in the middle.
So who's got a question?
Yes, here. How do we get your honest message out?
How what?
How do we get this message of yours out?
Can the sound guy crank up that microphone wherever you might be? How can we get this message out? Well, I would say the single most important strategy is to listen every day to the Armstrong and Getty show. And tell your friends.
You can do like my dad does. He actually stops people in the parking lot and will say, "Who'd you vote for?" and then argue with them for 15 minutes. You might get into fights that way.
You know, there are a lot of creative ways to do that. You're doing it here, like I said, giving each other the confidence to go out, and I do not mean this in a light way at all, but as disciples of what you believe in. There's a reason Jesus gathered his disciples to him and taught them and reconvened frequently to give them the confidence to go out and do it. And this is an important forum. And by the way, your programs sound absolutely fantastic. We'll have to come as audience members. But give each other that encouragement, number one.
Being knowledgeable helps, and it seems like it's a pretty well-read, well-viewed, well-listened-to crowd, but like we gave you some suggestions. That Mark Stein book, America Alone, is great and an easy read. I don't know how into Milton Friedman any of you are. YouTube videos, lots of YouTube videos of Milton Friedman giving presentations, really explaining things in a way that you understand, and you know, it helps you understand, it helps you explain it to other people, whether it's your kids or your spouse or your aunt or your uncle, or you get into friendly arguments with people that usually end up not being so friendly, but I think that helps a lot. Because the other side has such a great emotional position. You know, you want to help starving babies. Okay, now you've got the moral high ground, and I have to argue against that and point out, well, nobody's starving in America. They had to change it from starving to hunger threatened. There are so few people actually hungry in America. I mean, those are the sorts of things you have to understand.
Oh my God, yeah, I wish we'd have gotten a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, talk about changing the language. Nobody's freaking starving in America. So the whole hunger thing is hunger threatened. There's a threat. To qualify for food stamps, there has to be a threat. You may be hungry sometime in the next year. Are you kidding me? How the hell did we get here?
I'm hungry now. I should have had one more meatball. Where's my money?
Anyway.
Yes.
We are going to visit the editorial board of Mercury News tomorrow. Would you like to come and join us? What would you tell them?
What would we tell them?
We've had a lot of writers from the Mercury News on over the years on a variety of subjects that do stories or whatever that have been very good. The Mercury News, most media outlets are left-leaning. Most of your major media, it's just a fact. I don't know why it is that people who tend to get into journalism tend to see things from that point of view, but they do. It's just, I mean, that is as much a fact as anything could be. It's like the sun rises in the east.
Right, it's a personality type. I mean, there's a personality type that tends to gravitate toward being a soldier or a cop or a firefighter
or an artist.
Or an artist, right, exactly. In terms of what you can tell them, boy, that's a tough one because it's...
Newspapers are dying, that's what you can tell them. doing something else because you're going to be out of work soon.
Get a website. I would pick a couple of statistics or stories like we've discussed today, one or two. Go back to the illegal immigration thing if you want, and those numbers, and tell them narratives run out of control. Media tend to run like lemmings. Not you folks, of course, you want to throw in. But people tend to seize a particular narrative and run with it and not challenge it. Hit them with that, say, the narrative in the media is completely opposite. We need to be dealing with facts and data here, not what makes you feel good. Because that's the great appeal for liberalism. You pitch ideas that make you feel good and feel enlightened and impress your fellow liberals as opposed to what works.
And you might as well be a mule skinner as work for a newspaper these days.
That's a good point. Throw that in.
I volunteer with the Election Integrity Project. Would you comment, please, on voter fraud and the election?
The claim that, why are they so worried about voter fraud? There have only been 2 cases in the last day. May have been one of the most patently absurd arguments in the history of absurd arguments. You have no mechanism for finding something, and you say you haven't found any. Go on.
The idea that that you should show an ID to vote, how could that be controversial? Man, it's astounding. It's absolutely astounding.
Boy, was that funny when Barack Obama had to show an ID to vote in Chicago, and he didn't say anything about it. It must not be very racist. I would say the awareness of that issue has gone from virtually nothing to very, very big. So that's one of those areas where I think there's a great deal of hope. That's another one where the truth is on your side. I don't want to see any barriers to anybody who, of good conscience, wants to vote. I don't think anybody does. Anybody who I don't want to spend any time with.
Do your pants have a question?
How would conservatives get the Hispanic vote? How would you go about reaching large groups of Hispanic?
That's a good one. I think that comes down to what we've been talking about selling conservatism, finding a better way to sell conservatism. I don't know how much you all know about Hispanic culture, but I mean, hardworking, big families, go to church, stay married, all kinds of conservative principles. That should be an easy get. It should be, if it's sold properly.
Yeah, I would say make the freedom argument, make the free enterprise argument. I mean, you probably know this, but free enterprise, the market system, has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system conceived in the history of mankind by many, 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 many multiples. If you want to be successful, be free. If you want to have stuff, be free. So I would say, you know, make the social argument, make the freedom argument, and fight to rework the terms associated with the immigration argument. Did you hear at any point on the campaign trail, every country on earth regulates its immigration. Every country on earth insists that you immigrate legally. Did you hear anybody say the United States has more lawful immigration than any other nation on earth? You didn't hear that. Why? I don't know.
Does it ever
Karl Rove is up there in the rafters. Why, Karl?
Is there anybody pointing out nowhere else in the world do you get to show up, have a baby, and they're automatically a citizen of that country? Why do we do it? I don't know, but nobody ever makes the argument. Why? Because they're afraid of being called a racist, I guess.
One place that sure as hell doesn't happen is Mexico. I mean, so that's not that great a leap to explain that to our new friends from our border to the south. Our neighbor to the south, rather. Yes, sir.
What do you think about Time Magazine nominating Sandra Fluke as the Person of the Year?
I think they're right. If you can be 32 years old, still in school, in the 27th grade, as Mark Stein put it, and you can get people to buy the fact that A, you need $2,000 worth of birth control a year, and B, they ought to pay for it, and you get them to buy that horse poo, you are the Person of the Year. Or, people are stupid.
What do you see as the future of the Tea Party movement?
That's a good question. The Tea Party movement. Who was it I saw yesterday said Tea Party 2 is going to be so much bigger than Tea Party 1. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. My personal opinion is the Tea Party needs to stick with the financial stuff and not get embroiled in the social stuff.
Which is not to devalue the importance of the social stuff in any way.
But there's nothing wrong with having the fiscal problems of our country be your issue and making that foremost and prominent. I think that would help a lot. I think that's the best way to move forward and allow for more people to get involved.
And by the way, don't listen to the narrative that the Tea Party movement's in decline. I mean, it's fractured in certain ways, but it should. It's not a monolith. God help us if it ever becomes a monolith, because then the good old power brokers will get hold of it. They'll use it, for their own purposes. We don't want that. That's fine. By the way, a depressing note, then we'll take another question. And this is kind of breaking news. A friend let me know about it. And the Washington Post doesn't even have it yet. John Boehner kicked 3 fiscal conservatives out of their committee posts today for not towing the company line.
See, John Boehner is not a fiscal conservative. That is the problem with this entire negotiation. He's been in Congress for 20 years. Do you remember him screaming to the high heavens about the spending problem in America at any point during those 20 years being a representative? No, hell no. It's not his thing. There aren't very many Republicans that actually care about this. Democrats don't care about it, but that's their thing. They get to do that. But there should be one party that cares, shouldn't there?
I don't mind getting stabbed from the front. It's the ones that come from behind that annoy me. Yes?
Boehner must go.
Boehner must go.
All right.
What are the media's agenda? What's in it for them to be liberal?
What's in the media's agenda? Profit. Profit.
They like.
And we can go back to the personality type thing. I mean, they have their beliefs and they want to promote them, same as we do. We admit to our biases, is the difference. The media's agenda is profit. We work primarily for Clear Channel, which is a big, dumb corporation. But they're real good to us. And it's funny, because they put more money than anybody on earth into liberal talk radio. And it didn't work. For reasons, you can probably noodle through yourself. But Clear Channel's constantly getting knocked for being this mouthpiece of fascists on the right. It's just not true. It's just greed, which is fine. I mean, it's free enterprise.
We're glad to hear that you're addressing the Muslim violence issue. What kind of pressure was put on you to get you to stop talking about, point out in your satirical way, the atrocities performed by the religion of peace?
Well, we didn't stop talking about it at all. I repeated the same thing that I said after our 2-day vacation that I said before our 2-day vacation.
We actually opened the show when we came back with a Muslim call to prayer. Just to deliver a bit of a message. How far can we go in saying what actually happened?
It is a convoluted, boring, technical, corporate, scared lawyers thing that doesn't really have much to do with what I said, and it certainly didn't have anything to do with having to back off of what we said.
Yeah, they took great pains to tell us, listen, fellas, you can say whatever you want.
Much to their credit. Nobody, thus far in 16 years of doing this talk show for Clear Channel, nobody has ever told us something we can't say or can say on the air, not once.
They've told us, if you screw up and you go down for it, we may not stand up for you, but that's fine. We're willing to take that gamble. It was what we said was distributed in a way that did not follow corporate guidelines by some staffers, and they had to get to the bottom of that. But it honestly was not about the content. It was related, obviously, but it wasn't about the content.
Would you encourage conservative teachers to espouse their values in the classroom?
God dang it. That's a tough one.
I would say if you're really good at finding subtle ways to include it, I would say go ahead. Fighting obnoxiousness with obnoxiousness, and there's plenty of that on the left.
How about you teach kids how to read and write and leave your political views out of it? Teach them how to play a trumpet or whatever the heck it is you're teaching. Leave your political views out of it.
Although if you did want to do the incredibly popular on the internet exercise where you have all the kids take the test, then average the scores, and have the kids who failed and did nothing get C's, and have the kids who busted their butts get C's, and then do it again the next time, and watch that average score decline test after test, because effort is not rewarded over and over again. And then say to the kids, anybody reach any insights through this little exercise?
Or simple math problems. If you spend $10 a week and take in $8 a week, what is going to happen eventually?
That evidently is beyond the understanding of the American public.
After 2 or more years of Obama's social expansion, won't the system become irreversible?
That's what I think. I think we've crossed some sort of line. I think there's, as a culture, I think we crossed some sort of line and there's no going back. There's more takers than there are people that actually want what Joe opened up with, the idea of, I'm on my own, I'll either succeed or fail on my own. I don't think there's enough people that feel that way left. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I think.
But you know,
I'm a cynical, depressed person who drinks a lot.
The fact is, though, history never moves in straight lines. It moves in pendulum swings. And every time humankind thinks, okay, we've got this down, you have some natural cataclysm, you have some enormous world war, you have some terrible disease, something like that. So I'm rooting for a terrible disease.
Some plague-like occurrence.
Well, I tell you what, the thing will collapse of its own weight. And bloody-knuckled, dirty-faced entrepreneurs who may come crawling out of the woods looking like bears will take over what's left, and they'll build something absolutely fantastic and beautiful and successful and smart again. I'm hoping they'll fly that flag over it. Might take a while.
We could have some serious social unrest when this really goes over the cliff and you have to start cutting services big. And people who thought, wait, I thought you were going to feed and clothe me and house me forever are in the streets like we're seeing in Greece and other places around the world. It could get damned ugly. I mean, we might not need a plague to have a reset button, but it could be quite an unpleasant experience.
So our next topic will be the Second Amendment, what it means to you.
These are dominant questions.
Dominic questions, our new producer, fairly new. Yeah.
Number 1, why didn't you bring him with you? Number 2, did Dominic finish his dental work at the illegal dentist?
As Dominic, our producer, is going to a dentist that is just some guy's house, and clearly, in all those horror stories you hear about doctors performing surgery, but it's always some illegal doctor. Like the guy doesn't even have a doctor's license and working on his house. That's who Dominic is seeing for his dentistry. It's just a house in a neighborhood.
He walks in, and they ask him what he needs done. He tells them, and the lady says in a thick foreign accent, which I will not imitate in case members of the media are here tonight, says, do you have insurance? And he goes, yeah. And she shouts upstairs, he has insurance! He has insurance! But his teeth ended up okay. And why did we not bring him here? His leash isn't that long.
Yeah.
He's a character. We do have a great team, though, the Armstrong and Getty team. A lot of good people.
Is secession an option?
Oh, boy. No. Is secession an option? Realistically, no. I mean, it's a lovely idea, in a way. I'm big for the state of Jefferson. Any state of Jefferson people out here? Northern California. We saw it off just north of Bakersfield. I don't know, they got a little oil down there, maybe just south of Bakersfield. Start a new state. Yeah, oh, we need Ventura. Okay, well, maybe they could be the West Berlin of the state of Jefferson. But I don't think it's realistic. It sure does send a nice message, though. Couple more, we don't want to...
What's the opposite of secession? Because that's what's going to happen. California's going to get kicked out of the union because we're going over the cliff before the federal government's going over the cliff. And the rest of the country, when they find out what it's going to cost them to bail out the biggest, most populous state, that's redundant, in the union, they're going to want to secede us, or whatever the verb would be. They're going to want to kick us out of the union. And go, why would the other 49 states, many of these states who are living within their means, why would they want to pay our bills for all our ridiculousness? I wouldn't if I lived somewhere else. So we're going to see what the opposite of secession is. We're going to see if that's possible as we get kicked out of the United States.
California, come in, please. Sit down. This is very hard for me, California. But it's just not worked out.
The primary reason the 82 90% who feel illegal immigration is important are not heard because the media does not tell the general public that. What can be done to get that honest message out?
And this one to me is so simple. Mitt Romney, say it in the damn debate. Say it. Stand there with the Gallup poll and hold it up. Show the numbers. Somebody have the guts to tell people. This one doesn't seem like a hard one to me.
He's very passionate.
And by the way, that's 52% say extremely important.
That's a majority.
Over half the country says it's extremely important that we stop illegal immigration this year. Then you have another 29% that say it's very important, and 12% say moderately important. You add them all together, and you're up into the 90 percentile who say it's at least somewhat important. I mean, it's not even a close issue. It's not, you can't get people, 90% of people to agree on anything. Anything! And 90% of the people agree that we need to seal our border this year. And there are no politicians willing to say it out loud.
You're an extremist.
Clearly a racist.
And the other thing is, this is we're at a particular point in the historic timeline, and the history of slavery, Jim Crow laws, racism, etc., is a blot on our history. And it's something for which we must atone. It is also by no means unique in the world. The idea that America is the most racist, whatever, is just stupid. So we're coming out of a part where the point of history where the civil rights movement was incredibly important and did some absolutely wonderful things. And we should be happy about that. And the desire not to be a racist is so powerful at this point. It is such a bludgeon to hit people with, to suggest they're a racist. Until fairly recently, got people back on their heels immediately. I mean, somebody would call us racists because we dared to say, for instance, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton don't care about the emancipation and advancement of black people. They want to keep them victims because that's their profit center. Well, 10 years ago, we'd say stuff like that, and somebody would say they're racists, and our company would go into, which is higher, military guys, DEFCON 1. Is that the highest one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, DEFCON 4. Yeah, people get that backwards, yeah. It's like murder in the first degree, I'll just remember it that way. But they would go into DEFCON 1. Now people say that, and our company says, yeah, right, they're racist, whatever, write us a letter. Because they realize that's a weapon that's been used pretty effectively in the past, but it's getting less and less and less effective. So argue the issue logically, argue it in terms of every country on earth regulates it. We're making progress on that one. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we are.
I die a little bit every time I have to press one for English. I die a little bit every single time. My kids, all their toys, because I have little kids, all their toys are in English and Spanish. You have to press which button you want it to talk in. Nobody cares.
You gotta take out a file and file off those Spanish words. Daddy, why is my little phone toy all marked up? Because we speak English, son. How about, what do you think? One more? I don't want to torture these people. Leave them wanting more, Al. Leave them one more. Jerry, come on, leave them one more. 3 more? All right, we'll make it quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I heard you talk on your show about a friend who wanted to only do business with conservatives, dentists, contractors, etc. How does one find them?
Well, this guy, he wrote them all emails, or asked him. He walked up to the counter and he said, how did you vote? What do you think the role of the federal government is? And most of them reacted, what? Or they answered,
It's because they don't speak English.
okay. And those who answered, well, I'm a conservative, I agree with you completely, because he laid out his beliefs a little bit. He did business with. And those who didn't, he respectfully said, thanks very much, I appreciate the service in the past, but I'm going to go elsewhere. We actually had an hour or so of pretty interesting phone calls on whether that's a good idea or not. I would suggest continuing to engage with people and change minds and hearts, but do whatever you want. I'm a freedom guy. What do I care? Do your own thing. Just don't.
And now the runner-up question.
The Constitution says Congress cannot establish a national religion. Well, if we can't mention God in the public square, isn't atheism our national religion?
Oh boy, First Amendment. I spent a lot of years in college studying this stuff, and I get bored to tears.
At least people have caught on, or it seems that this group has caught on to the fact that it's atheists that are causing this. It's not Muslims and Jews that are complaining that, oh, they're so horrified if there's a Christmas tree. Never has been the problem, still isn't the problem today. It's atheists that are driving this conversation.
Yeah, and a very small number of those too.
You ever been an atheist that wasn't a pain in the ass? Be honest.
How about an atheist vegetarian?
Or a vegetarian.
Guaranteed pain in the ass. But by the way, the answer, the proper answer is, there should be a nativity scene, there should be a Christmas tree. Shut up, you'll be fine. That's the official American answer. Quit pretending to be wounded, for God's sake. Are we that soft to people?
We know the guy in Sacramento, Michael Newdow, who's the guy who's trying to get God off the money and pledge allegiance, all that stuff. He's got a law degree and a medical degree. It's our belief that anybody who has a law degree and a medical degree is guaranteed to be a pain in the ass. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. You got both of those degrees. There's something wrong with your brain. You're too smart. You're annoying. Please go away.
You know, and I think he is a vegetarian too. Loathsome individual. All right, is this number one or number two? Oh, wait, this nice lady up front has a question. Yeah.
Well, in the California Constitution, it says that Brown can only have, that you can only have 2 terms as governor. And Brown is now...
Well, I think, okay, 2 contextual, you know, if that was a legitimate issue, I think we would have dealt with it, honestly.
And do you think Obama will go try for a 3rd term?
Okay, the question is about the fact that Jerry Brown's already served 2 terms back in the day, and he's back again. The Constitution of California says 2 terms. I assume it says 2 consecutive terms. I don't know. I mean, if that's not the case, I think we ought to take up arms right now and march on the Capitol. Whoops, that's actually, I'm not allowed to say that. That was a parody for the purpose of humor. But no, I don't think Barack Obama will do that. I don't think he likes being president. But we could get into that. I think it's an ego trip for him. He doesn't like politics, he doesn't like people. He doesn't like working deals, he doesn't like solving problems. He's a very, very smart guy and a charming guy. I don't think he actually enjoys the job. But one more. This is the winner of the most indisputably insightful, probing question of the evening.
The last question, ladies and gentlemen.
Why has no one made the case that the $250,000 income bracket has very different impact depending upon where you live in this country?
We make the case all the time, but go on. Was there more to that?
Yeah, I thought of this actually today because you probably all heard the statistic that something like 50% of small businesses file as just an individual, and so if you make more than $250,000 and you got a little whatever it is, landscaping business or whatever it is, so your taxes are going to go up. So it's going to be actually taxes on a lot of the small businesses in the country. Why in the world wouldn't the Republicans, whether it was Mitt Romney 2 months ago or John Boehner today, line up a bunch of small business people on a stage and go one by one and talk to them? And this is Fred, and he's got a place where he's heating and air conditioning. They make $300,000 a year, and his taxes are going to go up. Then you just go through one by one, explain to America what this actually means. But like we've been saying for the last, God, it's been like an hour and a half. What we've been saying is the conservative point of view is being badly explained, badly put out there. I don't know what we can do about that. I think the message would resonate, I would think it would work, but it's not nobody's standing up for it.
You know what's crazy is a lot of government benefits are indexed for cost of living, but not tax bills. I mean, we've had the privilege, and this is kind of a flag waving note, so maybe we can end on it. We've had the privilege of living in virtually every corner of this country through our radio careers. We've been run out of so many towns. And or our career has been building to this fabulous climax, depending on how you want to describe it. But, you know, we've lived in the South, the Midwest. Jack grew up in a couple of tiny towns. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, ended up in Central Illinois, blah, blah, blah. If you make $250,000 a year in, for instance, rural Kansas, you're the richest guy in town. You have 50 acres, you have your own lake, you have an enormous house, you have horses, you have an RV, you have everything you ever dreamed you might want. As we all know, in Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area, you are actually middle class, and you're terrified what will happen if you lose your job. Those are starkly different realities, and the fact that, again, I have no consultants, that came off the top of my head, the fact that we haven't had people to make a point that clear and that easy to understand is really disappointing to those of us who would like a little more reality and a little less what makes me feel good in our nation's politics. These things aren't difficult to solve. but it's going to take the right people delivering the right message. And again, if it ain't coming from on high, and I don't see Reagan getting reincarnated, God bless him, it's got to come up from us. And we got to say it till we're blue in the face and we're sick of saying it. And, you know, maybe some of us don't live to see the day that we get back to the majority. Well, you know what? Screw it. We'll all get together and have a beer in the little bar over there from time to time. We'll console each other. We'll live happy lives. Don't look to the headlines for your joy. Because there's not going to be a lot for a while. Look to your loved ones. Look to your family. Look to your love of country and the fact that you're trying. You know, all right, this is overly dramatic, but, you know, the guys at Valley Forge thought they were going to lose too, and they probably should have, but they didn't. Maybe console yourself with the fact that the entire history of this country is people trying when maybe they should have given up, but they didn't. And they kept it grinding on. So let that be your joy.
We won't keep grinding on right now. We'll say goodnight. And thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for your support of the Armstrong and Getty Show. It's 9:10 a.m. in the Bay Area and 6:50 in the Central Valley. God bless America. Thank you.